everyone, how are you? I'm here because, as you may have noticed, I have been posting some 5-minute fitness videos on my channels over the last week or two. They're all short and sweet workouts that I've just done here in my own living room, and I've invited all of you to participate with me. On one of the recent videos, the 5-minute plank one, I received a request through the comments section from someone who is struggling with leg strength, and they use a walker to get around and don't necessarily have the balance or the endurance to do any exercises while standing. So I decided to film this video for those of you who need some alternative exercises. And so this entire video will be done from a chair. So every single one of the exercises, even the warm-up, is done from the chair. The stretches too. So this video will be great for anyone who is maybe a senior or has reduced mobility, is recovering from a procedure or maybe an injury, or like I said earlier, is just completely burn out your legs doing other fun things. So before we get started, let me talk about the props I'm going to use. These aren't necessarily the props I would utilize if I was in the studio, but since I'm not, I'm here at home, I'm using what I have. So first is a yoga block. If you have one of those, that's perfect. I don't have a yoga block at home, so I'm going to use this mini foam roller, fairly similar. And then the other thing you could use is one of those fitness bands, either one that's in a circle already or one that's long that you can tie into a circle. I don't have one of those at home either, so I am using a belt, like the looping kind of belt, but you could use any type of belt or scarf or something like that. I have just made it the size, the appropriate size for me to keep my knees about hip distance when I put them around my legs, okay? So we'll get to that later. The first thing we're gonna do is just warm up the legs a little bit, especially the lower legs. So to do this, all of these exercises actually, I'd like you to be sitting up straight. So if you need to use the back of the chair for that, because you don't have the core stability to do that away from the back, you're welcome to. Just press your lower back tailbone into the chair so that you make sure that you are actually, in fact, sitting up straight. You can also, if you're like me and you're kind of short for this chair, I'm actually going to scoot forward a little bit so that I can feel the full weight of my heels on the floor. Make sure your knees are positioned right over the ankles, and if you are scooted forward, make sure you're staying up tall, squeezing shoulder blades together, engaging through the core to sit this way. Now, all we're going to do is rest our palms on our thighs and then press ourselves up onto the balls of both feet, hold there, and then slowly come down, rocking our balls up so we're now pressing into the heels. Okay, so it's like pushing on a gas pedal and then letting off, but with both feet at the same time. We're moving nice and slow, we're breathing, sitting up tall. We're not rushing through this at all. We want to linger in the extremes for a moment. And then if you want to get more involved, you can start to take full rounds of breath in each position before moving to the next. So you could come up to the balls of your feet, take anywhere from 1 to 3 rounds of breath, holding in that extreme, and then rock yourself up onto the heels and do the same thing. So you're going to continue like this back and forth until you start to feel a significant burn in the calves and shins and ankles. This is just to get them prepared for the rest of the exercises. Also, most of these exercises aren't going to really use much ankle strength, so this is a good way to squeeze it in there. All right, so once you feel warm from that, we'll move on to our first exercise. The first exercise doesn't actually require a prop. We're going to either sit back in our chair for a level 1, or if you want a higher level, you can scoot forward and do this free. I'll explain that in a minute. So level 1 has a sitting back, shoulders back, fingertips reaching down. Make sure the stabilizing knee is over the grounded foot, and then we're going to straighten the other leg. You can put a nice firm point in that toe. That way I know your full leg is engaged. This could be our level 1, just holding the leg out straight. If you could use a little more, you're going to take these tiny pulses up and down. Please keep in mind that you're keeping the top of your foot pointed at the sky. In other words, we're not externally rotating the leg at all. We're keeping it closed. Tiny lifts, just about 1 inch or 2 up and down. Breathing the whole time. It starts to get hard. Try not to only use your quad and hip flexor to lift this leg. Try and engage your core and recruit those muscles to facilitate the lift as well. Now, if you want a level 3, I'm going to encourage you to scoot forward on the chair. That way you're not supported under the thigh at all. That way you have to hold the full weight of your leg on your own. Just make sure you're not leaning back or swinging back and forth as you do these tiny pulses. Okay? So you're going to go until you think you can't go anymore, and then maybe squeeze 4 or 5 more in there, and then rest. Shake the knees out, and then just let go of the legs and use your arms to release through the hips. And then you'll take that to the other side. Root through the first leg, straighten the second, strong point, tiny pulses up, or maybe you've got your back on the chair and you're just holding static, that's fine too. You're gonna try and keep it even from leg to leg, so you could time yourself, you could count the pulses, it's up to you. So once you finish that, you're probably gonna feel a lot of tension in the quads and the hip flexors. So I'll show you a little stretch you can do to release some of that before we move to the next exercise. I'm going to scoot one cheek fully off of the chair. I'm going to keep one knee, the inside one, stacked over the ankle, and then I'm going to slide that outer leg to the back. Now you don't need to have your back leg straight, the knee can be bent, but what's important here is that you're actually tucking the tailbone quite ferociously so that you feel a nice stretch in the front of that back hip, also into the quad. And then if you feel balanced enough, you could even keep one hand on the chair. You can lift that same side arm, but don't change anything in the lower body when you do that. If you do add the arm, you'll feel a little bit more psoas stretch, okay? Do that on both sides. I won't show it on the second because you won't be able to see it that well. And then let's move on to exercise number 2. So exercise number 2, let's do adductors first. So adductors are the muscles responsible for bringing the legs together, for squeezing the thighs together. So this is where you're going to grab your yoga block. Yoga blocks basically have 3 different widths depending on how you set it up. So when I do this exercise with my senior clients, I usually ask them, like, do you want to start hard and move easy, or do you want to start easy and move towards the harder? And they usually choose hard first, you know, to get it out of the way. So the hard version will be the shortest distance, okay? So you're going to put that in between straight legs. So again, you're sitting up nice and tall. You could be sitting all the way back in the chair to make it easier, or you could scoot forward to make it a bit harder. You're going to either go in between the thighs or in between the calves, but not right at the knee. You're going to straighten the legs, hold them out, and then just squeeze your legs together. Put either a firm point on the ankles, or you could put a nice flex on them. Either way, just choose one so that I know that the legs are fully engaged. And then all you're doing is squeezing the legs together. No pulsing, nothing like that. Just keep squeezing. Now, over time, make sure you're breathing. Over time, you're going to start to fatigue, and as your legs get looser, you're going to notice that block start to slide out. When you start to notice that happening, I want you to keep squeezing and really fight to hold on to it as long as you can. Once it drops, you can take a rest, shake the legs out, and then move to level 2. So the medium width of the block, do the exact same exercise. I don't have level 2, so I'll just skip to the level 3, which will be this wider one. I'm going to actually put it down by my ankles since this happens to be so wide, more than a block would be. And then same thing, straighten the legs out, put a point on the toes or a flex, sit up tall, engage through the core, squeeze everything together. What you'll notice is as you fatigue, you'll start to shake. That's a good thing, so keep pushing through it. And then when you think you can't hold anymore, give yourself maybe 5 more seconds, 5 more breaths, something like that. See if you can just really find that edge and then fully exhaust yourself to that point before dropping, resting, and resetting. Okay? So you have a few levels of that exercise. That's all adductors. That's exercise number 2. And now we have one more. So this one is for our abductors. These are the muscles of the legs recruited to bring the thighs apart. So for this one, we're going to use my improvised fitness band / belt, and I'm going to crawl my legs through it. Now I've tightened this to be tight enough that my knees, when pulling apart, are about hip distance. So that's what you want to do too. Sit up tall, straighten your legs, and then again, the strap will either be below the knees or above. I'll put it down here on my calves. And then point the toes or flex, and then pull your legs apart. So use your full core engagement, leg engagement, all of it. Sit up tall out of the chair and just work on pulling your legs as far apart as possible. Your legs will shake eventually. Just keep breathing through it. Remember the cues that I've shared along the way. You're just going to hold as long as you can, and then hold a little bit longer, and then you can rest, all right? So do that as many times as you feel you need to feel the true burn and fatigue in those muscles. And then notice that I didn't give you guys many cues for how many reps to do or how long to do this for, how many pulses. That's because I want this video to be super adaptable to wherever you are at. So if you want to make this a timed exercise, great. If you want to set a goal for pulses or reps, you can do that too. If you want to just go until you can't go anymore and you know that you have the motivation to do that and train that way, do that. That works too. If you have any questions about these exercises or others, feel free to comment them below. And as always, I'm super responsive to requests, as you can see. So feel free to let me know what other kind of fitness videos or flexibility videos you might like to see in the near future. All right, you guys, have fun with that one. Have a good day.